What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Really Charlie podcast. And tonight's guest is Jenny Arruda, running for City Council of the City of New Bedford. I am so excited that she had put her hat in the ring and basically stepped up. And and definitely when we tried to get this podcast going and set it up, I was excited. I said, yeah, because I remember the conversations we had in the past and how I was so impressed with your energy and your just a good person. And all in all, you're a business owner in the district, the historic district of downtown New Bedford, and they your venue, your circle, your community downtown appeals to me so much because I walk downtown and been here most of my life, and all but 5 years, and I just truly love downtown. Even when it's good, bad, and ugly, I still love downtown. I still love walking down there. And all in all, you are the owner of. Let me get this right. The is it the L6 Gallery, right? I
Almost.
forget. All right, T
TL6, the gallery.
TL6 the Gallery. Um, I love it. It's the craziest thing is we grew up right there, like walking down there, and the best thing about that block is we grew up smelling the planters peanuts. It was just
Oh, I hear
amazing.
about that. Yeah, all the time.
Oh my God, that aroma would just there's no such thing as being on a diet when you went downtown because you smell those peanuts. You had to go down there. You just yeah, it's just amazing. But you live in a historic block through and through, you know, never
I,
mind the history of the whaling and all that, but you live on a tremendous block downtown New Bedford.
I
Uh,
do. I'm in the Cummings building, which
mm,
is owned by Craig Paiva that opened No Problemo. So talk
mhm.
about good smells is that
Yes.
when you work in
Yes.
the same building, in the
Hmm.
summer, you can smell all the delicious No Probs food. I'm sure lots of people love No Problemo.
It's amazing. And his family's been downtown for a long time. A
Yeah, I'm
very long
actually
time.
very lucky that the building that my business is in is owned and operated by a person that is local.
Hmm.
Craig grew up here in this area and bought the building that we're in and has really supported local small businesses like the skateboard shop. And over the years, there's been, there's my place, there's Allison Wells Gallery, which is the fantastic. I always like recommend people go see Allison Wells too. And now we have Kojo's Toy World, which is
Hmm.
so much fun. I tell people to go in there all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's new on our block. It's only been there like maybe 2 years. Um, and we have U7, the sneaker store. So
Hmm.
our building has some great businesses in it. New Bedford Barber Co. is next door to my shop. So yeah, all in all, I love the block that I'm on and the building that I'm in, and I've been working downtown now for 18 years.
Very good.
Yeah, a long time. I wasn't originally from New Bedford. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in a town called Holliston, Mass.
Hmm.
That's different. It's much more of like a small town suburb vibe. And then I moved out here to go to UMass Dartmouth.
Great. One
And
of 'em.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
UMass had a great program. I actually went for jewelry metalsmithing, which is it was in their arts department.
Mm.
I was one of the first graduating classes from the Star Store, so I have to say that broke my heart, and I was definitely, signing the petitions. I was definitely on the graduate student side of that, where that building that should have never happened. That was a travesty. That building was such a huge draw to the downtown, between the students and teachers that were there every day and other people that worked in the offices, and to have let that fall apart the way that it did. I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it really hurt my heart, because that's where most of my I took 5 years to go through school. Most of
Hmm.
my years were in the old building. We called it the Purchase Street building, and it's where
Yep.
the West Center is now. But we were so excited when we got the Star Store, because we actually had, like, state of the art equipment, ventilation, it looked nice, we had more space, we had more everything, and it was so amazing to get to. Even though I only spent 1 year there, it was so amazing to be part of the history and the next chapter, and I just
Exactly.
had hoped that the Star Store would be there forever.
Yeah, I actually worked there when Star Store was converting over to be Stewart's department store. That's when I was employed there for a
Oh,
couple of
really?
years. Yeah, and I knew that building from top to bottom. People don't realize that you can go through the Star Store building from Purchase Street all the way to Pleasant Street. It's all connected, and then it's just amazing how big and wonderful that building was. I'm going to give you a little known fact. As you go down Spring Street and you go to where all the generators are, that used to be the loading dock on Spring Street just before you got to Purchase Street. Well, do you know that that loading dock was actually, there was a garage? You can actually go down to that and you were able to park
Park?
cars down there,
That
which
would be
later,
that's like what we need. That's what we need right
yeah,
now, an
and they
underground parking garage.
and they end up just closing it and end up being a restaurant. And but you were able to drive cars right in there.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, that is
they,
what we need. An
yeah,
underground parking garage would
hmm,
be like one of the most helpful things downtown right now,
yeah.
really.
And you see what they're doing with all the apartments that are getting built. They're that's
Yeah,
the one thing that they're talking about, is to make sure that, well, they already had it in the plans, is that the residents were able to park. And I believe that's the building up at 8th Street and Union. I believe they have access to a garage. I believe that's on the first level, but I'm not sure. But I want to talk about a very special thing that you're doing. And this very special thing is running for city council at large, and it's to me, I think New Bedford's a great place to run and be part of the political arena. So if you have the opportunity, I always encourage people to do it, because when you are able to be in city council chambers and be able to review and make decisions for the city, um, and stand up for the constituents in the city, it's a very special and honorable thing. Um, Sometimes, I see some politicians take things for granted, like earning that, to having that title, and they take it for granted. Take it. They don't take it lightly, but I just think it's you got to have that same energy constantly. You can't kind of
yes,
lackluster. You got to always have energy to make sure that you're doing right by the city. On all at every term, whether it's your first term, your fifth term, or whatever it may be. I just think that that energy needs to stay up and high, because someone's always watching you.
right,
So,
right. And
but
and we have to, I think what also is very important to me is that you know, that we look at all of the residents that are in New Bedford, and we try to come from a place of all of them, not
yeah,
about, like, I'm above, like, people above profits. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
Like, we need to look at the vulnerable population and see what they need too. And I think sometimes we see dollar signs and we see outside dollars coming into our wonderful city and we go, oh, well, we need that money. But what we really need is to build up our community. We need to make it easier for our community to have better jobs, have opportunities to buy property. We need pathways to ownerships of homes and not just band-aid solutions and people coming in and opening businesses that are not necessarily helpful to the community that actually lives here, and not just focus, like a lot of people want to focus on tourism. And when I first opened my business, that was kind of like what we were sold, that like downtown was on its way up and tourism was going to
Mm-hmm.
come in and all of that. And it never, and also that the train was coming. Now I've been there for 18 years. So we were told the train is coming, the train is coming. And, it didn't come for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
now I don't really, people are like, Jen, what do you think about the train? It's a complicated thing because back when I was younger and I opened my business, I think when you're younger, you think of success as money.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily think of success as community, working within a community, creating a oneness with your community and appreciating everything for what it is. And so when people would say to my business partner and I, like, oh, yeah, we're going to, the train's going to come and we're going to get an office of tourism and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to bring all these outsiders. We were like, yeah, all right, sounds great. But at the end of the day, my regular customers ended up being community members. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like watching what happens now that I'm older and I can understand from a different standpoint and understand what gentrification can do to a community, I come from a different mindset now.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yes, it
you know,
does.
yeah,
It does.
and now that I'm older and I'm also educating myself about things like gentrification, and I don't want to get into it too much, but you and I met because I was working last summer on the no bid project, which
Yes.
I'm very proud of how it turned out. We did in fact prove that it was illegal.
Mm.
So they
Yes.
were trying to put in a bid that was in fact illegal. The map that they had drawn up, the square footage was not what it was supposed to be in order to get it to pass. But we attacked that at many different levels. We had people, looking at the map. We had, people writing to the city council. We had people researching. I met so many brilliant community members doing that and
Mm-hmm.
so many people that worked together. And that I think did inspire me to be where I am right now in the position of running for city councilor at large. I will say that I hadn't, in May, where a lot of people can start the process of running,
Mm-hmm.
this was not on my bingo card in May, you know? But like since the work that I did on the bid, several people have said, "Would you be willing to run for office? Do you think that you'd be interested in local politics? Like you seem to have a good grasp on this, and you can follow this." And once the bid kind of got like there's still issues underlying having to do with that. We're still that's not totally gone, which I wish I could say
Yeah.
it's totally gone. But like
Mm-hmm.
with government, everything with government takes so long.
Yes.
Every process, they're going to continue to try to call it another thing and bring it back to the table. And we have to, as the community, continue to say no because it's not good for our community. And it's just really opened my eyes to how long a campaign against something that's unhealthy for our community can go on for. Like there's
Hmm.
campaigns, um, you and I were touching upon parallel products.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that the folks that have been fighting that have been fighting parallel products, or AKA South Coast Renewables, which they changed to their name to, they've been fighting this for like 7 to 5 years.
I
7 at the
remember.
longest, yeah, and 5 at the shortest. And you have to give a time frame like that because um, when you're talking about fighting something in a political arena, it's a marathon. This is what Shane Burgo told me when I was
Yeah.
when I was getting into learning about these things. He said, "Jenny, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You can't just go fast." And so I have had to learn to be a little bit patient, but also, like you said, you have to bring that same when you're fighting something like the parallel products, or you're fighting something like an illegal business improvement district that you don't want in your community, to save really what we did is we saved the community, because once that was being signed into law, they would not have been able to get out of that contract for at least 5 to 10 years, and they could continue to raise up the amount of money that they wanted us to pay into it. So I in no doubt in my mind did we do the right thing. Um, and in no doubt in my mind what the South Coast Neighbors United are doing by fighting the Parallel Products project. They're 100% doing the right thing. No one in this city, I shouldn't say no one. I guess
Hmm.
there are a few people in this city that want it. Very few. Um,
Hmm.
it's a bad deal all around. I had the pleasure of meeting with the folks from South Coast Neighbors United, who have been fighting for this. Wendy Morrill, she is amazing. She's sort of been spearheading this and helping organize it, and she just, I don't think I can even keep up with her, but she has really, really been fighting this because she believes that the people that live in that area deserve a safe, healthy environment to live in. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, companies like Parallel Products, um, they've changed their name to South Coast Renewables, so I keep trying to go back and forth so
Hmm.
people will know who we're talking about. Because some of the reason companies like that change their names to different things is to make it sound better so they can go forward with the project. And a bunch of people will, oh, this isn't Parallel Products anymore, so it's not the same project. Oh, it's the same project. And
Yeah.
it's interesting the name change that they did, because the group that's fighting it is called South Coast, two words, Neighbors United. And
Hmm.
then, everybody that's from the South Coast usually does South Coast, one word, and then whatever their product is. So when Parallel Products changed this project's name to read South Coast, two words, renewables,
Yeah.
so it sounded just like the group of people that were fighting against it. And this is a trick that big corporations use just with the bid. It's called a business improvement district. Well, they've made up a ton of different names for these districts so that you don't know all of them. One of the names is a did, and the did
Hmm.
is a downtown investment district. That's a did. There's a CBD, which is another form of a bid. So this is a way that legislators that want these things to get passed, they make different names for things that confuses people that are not, that are maybe don't want these things to happen, but they're not, fighting it constantly. They're not in the know constantly. And so it's easy to say, "Oh, it's not a bid, it's a did," and that's something different when it is the same thing. Same thing with
Hmm.
parallel products. It's well, with environmental, situations, they call it greenwashing. By putting it South Coast Renewables, it sounds like we're just recycling. We're not
Yeah.
doing anything
Hmm.
else. Yeah.
It it if I grew up in the south end, right? In the south end of the city, we have to deal with the horrible stench of the fish houses. Sometimes when you're outside and you smell it, and it goes all over the place. And I also it's just it makes life uncomfortable, right? Especially if
Yes,
you're
the
a
odor.
homeowner. Yep. So
Definitely.
and I think that and probably lesser, but it's still similar with parallel products. It's going to bring that same type of something, with it, whether it's
100%.
yeah, and
100%.
so why should that much of the population be so affected, and where's the benefit? Is the benefit for the city? They would like to say that, but we already have a dump.
Yeah, and so I attended, I don't know if I said this, or I think I told you off air that I attended all of the there were 1, 2, 3, and then there was a fourth. I attended the end of the fourth hearing. So these were actually Board of Health hearings.
Hmm.
And what some people may not have understood is that Wendy and the group South Coast Neighbors United, they actually contacted some environmental justice lawyers to help them because they were like, get it, they were fighting it themselves and they felt like they weren't getting any traction from what I was told, because I have just recently come on the fight, but I am definitely on the fight with them. But I was told that at first the mayor said no, and then he said that he made a deal, some sort of deal that would benefit our city. But when you look at all of the actual facts of what could happen to our city and how much pollution and traffic and rats and possible fires that could happen, no amount of money, let alone the very small amount that is estimated that the city would get from this, is worth it. It's not
Hmm.
worth it. And they were explaining to me that oftentimes they take a smaller city like our own. In Massachusetts, we call them gateway cities. So it's New Bedford, it's Taunton, it's Worcester, Lowell, all
Hmm.
those cities are considered gateway cities. And the things that I find to be the same about these small gateway cities is what I love about them actually, is
Yeah.
they're multicultural. Usually they have different cultures of people living there. They have multi-purpose areas to the city. So you've got different types of zoning. You've got single family zoning. You've got areas that are zoned both residential and business. So you've got that factor. And then you do oftentimes have the factor if you have a lot of middle class to poor folks. And they like to put these trash depots or
Hmm.
processing centers in cities that are such as these gateway cities where poor or middle class folks don't have a lot of money, and then they come in and they say, oh, but we're going to bring jobs, or we're going to bring, however amount of trash that we process, if we find so much that can actually be recycled, then the city will get this small percentage of the money that is gained from that. That is not enough money to hurt all of those people's lives. New Bedford
Hmm.
has a very high percentage of respiratory illnesses. this is something I also, learned doing my own research and looking at everything and talking to Wendy. We have very high percentage of things like asthma, childhood asthma, COPD, um, lung cancer, all of these things, which of course, when you're middle class to poor or working class, a lot of us folks work with our hands. Maybe we've already inhaled, like maybe you're a plasterer, maybe you're a painter, you've already inhaled things that are not good for your lungs. So
Hmm.
now we're going to put a trash plant into this city where we're going to tell all the poor and the middle class people, like, this is going to bring more to your city, when in fact the only thing it's going to bring detriment to our city.
Sure will.
Like,
Yep.
it's not going to help with, first of all, we don't need it. It's not even going to be processing our trash. It's going to
Hmm.
be processing outside cities and towns trash that don't want to have a processing plant. And why should we have to be the city that has this? Put it somewhere else. Put it somewhere else. We have enough landfills, trash, recycling areas for our city, and we don't have to provide that service to everyone else. Um,
So
the
true.
other the other issue is, like, every day there's going to be 200 plus diesel trucks driving down exit 7 into the neighborhood to do what's called tipping, and that's like when it dumps the trash into the sorting mechanism. And they keep saying, like, they're going to do this inside, so none of that trash is going to be outside. Well, how can you guarantee that none of that trash isn't going to blow
Hmm.
off the truck? The hearings were hearings where we were hearing a lot of evidence from Parallel Products hired um, experts. So, of course, when you have a hearing, or any kind of hearing, or if it was a court hearing, if this was a Board of Health hearing, you're going to hear from experts, and that's good. We should hear from experts, but at the there is no way that they can absolutely guarantee us that the litter won't fall off of these trucks, that the pests won't come,
Hmm.
that fires won't happen, because you remember the Crapo fire that happened
Yes, I do.
recently? It
Yes.
burned for 4 hours. And for 4 hours. And
Hmm.
the fire department, because of the flammable substances, the fire department could not just put it out. They had to contain it and let it burn out. There was no way to, we're talking about the trash that Parallel Products would be processing will include things, it's called mixed solid waste. So it will include things like lithium and ion batteries, which are flammable.
Hmm.
And then you add, so you take, because they're also saying, well, it's going to be inside a building. Whether it's outside or inside a building, you put a bunch of flammable stuff all together, and then you have a hot, hot day, and you got a trash fire.
Yeah.
It's not, a lot of people were like, well, the risk is really low. It's not if it happens, it's when it happens. And that's what I said. They did have a citizens, it was only like, now when I say these hearings went for 4 days, and there's still going to be, I think there's a finish up, like, the Board of Health are making their decision right now on whether to say yes or no to this. Now, I don't know what happens after they say yes or no, but we're continuing to fight it. Um, but we're hoping that the Board of Health listened to, we sent letters, people were sending letters. We stood up and spoke before the whole panel of the 3 members of the Board of Health, the 3 lawyers that were there, the environmental lawyers, and Parallel Products had two attorneys on their side and their expert witnesses. And this isn't a situation where we just, some people say, oh, NIMBY, not in my backyard. It's not actually that kind of situation. This isn't benefiting us at all. And
Yeah.
in the hearing, they kept talking about we had to prove that this would be a nuisance. And I think we did a great job of proving that it would be a nuisance. The topics were odor, like you were talking about.
Hmm.
Odor can really actually have a very bad negative effect on people living in an area that have constant disgusting odors. It really can affect your life negatively. So they talked about that. Someone even brought up, what low tide smells like. Well,
Yeah.
imagine we're smelling that plus trash all the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's not good for your health. So
No, it
that would
isn't.
make it more difficult for people that live directly adjacent to where Parallel Products would have this. And they were saying, the community members were like, I'm not going to be able to sit out in my yard if all I can smell is trash.
Yeah.
And then another point that they made was noise. Certain decibels and different types of noise. We heard from an expert on noise, and there's different types of noise. There's white noises and different tones and decibels. I don't know all the science, but basically the noise of the trucks backing up. Now, if you're listening to 200 trucks a day back up, it's already my least favorite noise. Like, I
Hmm.
can't stand it when I hear it in my neighborhood once. Could you imagine if you work from home, you get in your little home office, you're ready to do your work, and you hear that 200 times a day because they're going to have to back up to come into the building. And then the matter of the exhaust coming from the diesel trucks, 200 diesel trucks bringing exhaust into our city. It's going to heat up our city, which we're already dealing with. And the only way to cool a city is plant more trees, not
Hmm.
bring in a trash processing plant. So I believe that they really did prove that this would be more of a nuisance than it would be a benefit to the city.
Yeah. I agree. Just think of Morse twist cutting tools down in South End, Wing Street, and South Sixth. There was you know, two buildings, um, and built in the early 1900s. We're still, as a city, still affected by those buildings, and they're gone. You still
Yeah.
had to cap them. You still had to do everything that they did down there, and now they're thinking about what can we do with the property. And there's a plan, but I'm just mentioning that because just that site, it affected the city for such a long time. People
Yes.
are born and dead, and born and they died. People are, are born now, and they may not see that building still exists. It still may not come. And that's the same thing that may happen with Parallel Products. It just, I, it's just the smell alone is aggravating. The noise. They did a great job to bring all that up, but I
Yeah.
also think that the testimony of South End residents is very crucial. Just to now, we all eat seafood, most of us, right?
Yep.
And it's very beneficial to our city. Um, but the one thing that is the most negative thing about all of that is the smell that comes from those plants down in the South End.
Yeah, and they did bring that up when they had the citizens comment part about how bad that smelled. And now imagine that, but trash,
Hmm.
and obviously, especially when you're talking about mixed waste, because that, it's not all just natural composted materials. It's not all batteries and this. It's all solid waste mixed together.
Hmm.
And And then also the idea of a fire happening, and my least favorite thing, and that I spoke about when I talked there, was the rodent problem.
Yes.
When you have a rodent problem, which you're going to have, they kept saying, well, we can't see any rodents at the site right now. Well, you haven't built the plant and you haven't started accepting trash. But as soon as you start accepting trash, you are going to have rodents.
You bring a
And
food source and they're gonna go. They
yeah, exactly. And what actually bothers me the most, and I did put this in what I said there, was when you have a rodent problem, the way that they deal with it now is called bait trap. Well, they're not even really traps, they're bait stations. And
mm-hmm.
that's the other thing, is like when we were listening to testimony, there's a lot of words that they use that say someone like the average person wouldn't understand that word. Like they use a word called sensitive receptor. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you think a sensitive receptor is?
Hmm. Something that it's not as harmful a killer. It won't kill them. Is that true?
So, sensitive receptor actually means a person or animal that is sensitive to odors, sounds, and other things like that. But it does not sound, when you're hearing testimony and they keep saying sensitive receptors, at first I didn't know it meant a person.
Mm. Wow.
You
See,
know, when I first got there, I didn't know it meant a person. I had to look that up and read about it. And so just using scientific jargon, and yes, like I have friends that are scientists, and I told them some of this jargon and they said, "Well, Jen, those are the actual words you should use." Yes and no.
mm-hmm.
Yes, those are the actual words, but some of the people that were at the hearing, English isn't their first language, or
Mm-hmm.
like myself, I'm not a scientist. But if you take science and you explain, like on a chart, if it said, because they had a screen where they would show different slides. If it said sensitive receptor equals maybe person with low immune system or sensitive person,
Mm-hmm.
then the community has a better understanding that every time that person, that scientist is saying sensitive perceptor, they're actually talking about our kids.
Yeah.
They're actually talking about us, our pets, our elderly, And then another thing, when they were talking about the rodent population, they would say vectors, which
Mm-hmm.
is the scientific, if you look it up, it basically means any pests that can spread diseases. But when I hear vectors, I was like, what exactly I needed more. So I looked it up, and it does. It means like bugs, roaches, rats, mice that could carry diseases. And one of my, like I said, getting back to the thing that bothers me the most about this is that when you're dealing with vectors or rodent problems, the way that we deal with them right now, and I mean as a city, as a state, if there's a rodent problem, you are supposed to put what's called a bait station. Now, the bait station has bait in it that is poison, and it's an anticoagulant.
Mm.
So the rat will go, they look like little boxes. Actually, I would like everybody to know kind of what these are because you'll see them around the city. And if you have pets, I highly advise you to not walk your dog near them.
Yeah.
So they're like plastic square things on the side of a building, and they have like a little tunnel hole that the rodent goes into. There's bait in there. The rodent eats the bait and then leaves that and then walks however far it gets
Mm-hmm.
before the anticoagulant is it's like a medication, a blood thinner for humans, but it's given to a little tiny rat. And
Mm-hmm.
so what it does is it basically explodes the rat from the inside.
Yeah.
Now, those rat bodies are found all over neighborhoods in an area that would have this type of rodent population.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that poison is still in the rodent body. So, say a beautiful hawk is flying by.
Mm-hmm.
Hawks eat rodents. It sees a tasty snack, it goes down, it grabs it. That hawk ingests that rodent. Now that hawk is going to die from that poison. So now you have wildlife that are dying. Say like a little, a little kid has a cat in that neighborhood and the cat goes out and it sees a, a half dead mouse or a half dead
Mm-hmm.
rat, plays with that. Now the cat has ingested some of that poison because their blood when the rats die. And I know this is disgusting, which I'm
No, it's
sad that the
educational.
listeners,
Yeah.
yeah, it's what people really need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work for my family business, which was and this is one of the stories that I actually spoke about. Um, my family business back home was a doggy daycare and kennel business. And one day we had a client call us and say, "Oh my gosh, my dog got into some rat poison. I don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I do?" And we were like, "You have to take it to the vet ASAP. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just go to your nearest emergency vet." There are no, because usually there's tricks we know, like, oh, if it ate that, give it this, and or like we know little things, but rat poison, anticoagulant rat poison will kill an animal in under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That dog died on the way to the vet.
Wow.
So that's what I don't want to see happening. Like, and then they said when people were bringing that up, the parallel products folks were like, well, there won't be any pets at parallel products. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, are you meaning to tell me that some dog or cat isn't going to get out of the house and go wandering? I mean, please, dogs and cat. And what about the wildlife?
Yeah.
Because this project site is near the Freetown Cedar Swamp. So you've got wildlife that are going to be in the cedar swamp. And I certainly don't want to see, I mean, hawks and owls and all of these birds are endangered now. And this rat poison situation is some of the reason why they're endangered.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we want to put a trash processing plant right near a swamp where wildlife could ingest these infected dead rodents?
So true. It's I don't know. It's just not needed, and I can't think of anything to make me sway in that direction. Financially, you had said that it's not helping the city at all. Probably very very little.
Very
Um,
little. The mayor
and
said he made an agreement, but when we do the actual math, because it's mixed waste, not just recyclables,
yeah,
if it was just recyclables, maybe.
yeah,
But it's still not worth it's not worth it what's going to hurt our communities.
I think just more of a educational telecast periodically by cable access and just telling people how important it is to recycle, then our normal routine of recycling things could be beneficial to our city compared to what they're offering. It's too negative to me for that to be placed in this city. Um, and and you mentioned about 7 years ago. It's been a fight for 7 years. I
Yeah.
actually I remember to talk about it, in that area, and people just addressing it to me, and I was like, wow, this doesn't seem too good, and but even 7 years ago, I was questioning it,
Yeah.
based on the sincerity of the people in that community. That was just, you could see the frustration in their speech and their body language. It was like, I finally own a house and I got to worry about this.
Yes, and a lot of I got to meet some of the great folks and talk to them because we would have the hearings were so long that we had to take a break. You know,
Hmm.
you're sitting there, it would go on for so long, and it was in Pulaski School, and the air conditioning was not working properly. So the first night I
I
arrived
laugh
there.
because it never does. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah, that's what people have told me, but, like, I am very, affected by heat negatively, and I'm sitting
Hmm.
there, like, you know, fanning my papers and, like, trying to listen to
Hmm.
so I do think that, and that was another point, our city is this year has been the hottest year on record on in history. And
Wow.
so if that doesn't prove global warming is happening and it's happening at a rate that we really need to think about because when we live in a city, there's a lot of asphalt, there's a lot of heat. We need to concentrate on planting trees at this point and recycling
Hmm.
and reusing.
Yeah.
But at this point, the best thing our city could do is not bring a trash plant that will recycle some things. It
Hmm.
is to work on filling our parks and our everywhere with trees. That
Yeah.
is really at this point, that is the most productive thing we could do. The other thing that I learned, and I didn't know this, but a few years ago, and this is like what's so wonderful about having my shop downtown and having the different artists that I get to meet because the artist community are very a lot of them are very much into standing up for people's rights and
Hmm.
social justice and environment and you know all the things that are facing our communities they're on top of it, they're researching it, and they're you know I learn a lot from them when they come into the shop and tell me about stuff. And so there was a wonderful local woman, and her name is Emily, her first name is Emily, and she would do a lot of volunteer work gardening in the city. And she came in one day and I said something. I was complaining about this green space that had been made. It was a parking lot and then they made it into a green space. I still don't love it. It's
Hmm.
there. What can I do? And I said something about grass. And she said, "Did you know that grass is a huge environmental problem?" And I was
Hmm.
like, Grass? I mean, it's a plant. Like, I don't see what is the problem." And she explained it to me, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, it does make sense." So first of all, the grasses that we seed our yards with here are not native to New
Hmm.
England. So you've got that. We're bringing a plant life that's not native here. And then we're also always fertilizing it, and we also have to mow it all the time, and you're mowing it with a gas mower. I mean, my family just switched to a battery operated electric mower. I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
Um, but there are other things that cities could use other than grass that would help our environment um, when they're building parks. The other thing is the upkeep of the grass, but there are things like ground covers, you know, there's creeping thyme, there's another thing called red clover. It grows very short
Yeah.
and it's like this pinkish red flower, and you don't have to mow it as much. I don't know, like, I think it might be more expensive for the creeping thyme or the clover, but in the long run, it would help our health if we could switch over to things like that in parks. If we were using less powered mowers, you know, if we were planting less grass, it would actually be better for our environment. And I didn't know that. I learned it from an artist who was an environmental justice, I would say, warrior. The woman, she's amazing. And
Oh, you
I learned so much from her.
just taught me something, and horticulture was always something that I paid attention to through growing up, and
I always
tried to.
thought grass was great because
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
you know, growing up, everybody wanted a nice green, lush lawn. I didn't think about every step that took to have this perfect Kentucky bluegrass or
Hmm.
My husband also works in a garden center, so like we talk about grass a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Um, I want to say hello to our audience. Facebook, Derek Consatio from WNB1 Radio and Straight to the Point podcast, Sports Talk. He's on saying good evening to you. Michael Sameo was on earlier he's uh, first time author, and he's watching us on YouTube. Everybody on LinkedIn, I truly appreciate you joining us. And we have a super candidate here, and Jen Arruda. She's also sat with us. You heard her intellect, and she's not just you know just preaching. She's practicing what she preaches, and I think that we need a whole lot more of Jenna Reuter and City Council chambers. And she got my vote. I already told her before the podcast. Didn't need this podcast for Jenna Reuter to get my vote. She already had it. 18 years downtown New Bedford. That is more than enough for me to vote for someone that puts their hat in the arena, in the ring, and says, I want to be a city councilor. Because any owner downtown New Bedford really truly feels the good, bad, and ugly of New Bedford,
That's true.
and accomplishes, still becomes successful, still not overachieves, but overcomes all the different things that they have in front of them at their doorstep. And and just that in itself, you know, I got 5 people to vote for. Jen's definitely getting one of the votes. And who's to say I'm gonna vote for 5? I may vote for 2. I might vote for 3. And it's just very. I got a lot of friends running. That's the crazy thing about Charlie Perry is the list that's on that are running. There's a lot of personal friends there, and but there's also a history of a lot of friends and what they have done in the past. So it may sway me to go in a certain direction, and I may do that. But I'm telling you personally, man to woman, you definitely got my vote, and please keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And also, when I've been going out campaigning and getting my signatures, I've been talking to people because city councilor at large, like you said, you get to pick your top 5. So when you go in that voting booth, you don't have to just pick one. So I keep trying to tell people, like, get your dream team together. Look at the candidates, listen to the podcast, or the New Bedford Light is going to have all of the city councilor at large candidates do a little interview too. Listen to that. There's going to be some great fundraising events. There's going to be some great, actually, I should, while I'm on here, say that next AHA night at my shop, I've decided, since I'm running, that one of the things I'm very passionate about is to get new voters registered. A problem that we have in New Bedford, especially in a non mayoral year, is that we only bring out about 8 to 10% voters. And if I'm going to get elected, I need to bring the voters, especially for
Yes.
the preliminary election. A lot of people don't even vote in the preliminary election, and the
Hmm.
preliminary election is going to happen on October 7th. And so, if people want to see some change, and I think people do, from the people I've been chatting with, they want to see a little bit of change. They want to see, and also, you have to keep in mind that Linda Morad is retiring and
Yes.
she's been there for 20 years. So we do have, a long-term person retiring. So we have to, choose a new person anyways when you think
Hmm.
about it that way, because there has to be 5. But you can look at all the candidates and say to yourself, do I relate well with Shane? Is Shane one that I like? Yes. And then you can say to yourself, do I like James Roy? Do I feel like he stands for my values? And if so, then you've got two, and you can go down the list and just try to, listen to some of the interviews they're doing, check out their social media pages. If they've already been in government, try to look at see what side of different situations have they been on, or when they were in government. um, for example, Shane Burgo became the city council president. Now, that is a seat that the city council votes in. It's not the voters that pick the president, it's the city councilors. But think
Hmm.
about that. The city councilors chose him to be president. I think that says something. It says
Yes.
that they trusted him because the president sort of resides over the meetings. And it's also, I want to remind people that you can get on the local cable station, and
Hmm.
you can watch all of the city council meetings. So even if you don't feel like you want to go and attend a city council meeting, you can still watch them. And I think, sadly, that a lot of people have felt like our city government maybe was not, like, I know with the bid, a lot of people felt like the city government was not doing its service to us downtown, because they wanted this business improvement district to come take over things that we already pay our taxes for.
Yes.
And we were feeling like, hey, like, we already pay our rent and our taxes, and our landlords pay their taxes and mortgages and all of that. And now you want us to pay above and beyond, because instead of giving us back, we used to always have a community officer, a police officer, whose main area was the downtown. And
Hmm.
he usually was like he would either walk or be on a bike, and he would just stop in. He knew everybody. Having a community officer is 100% better than when you make, like, when you do have to make a 911 call. If you have a community officer that knows the neighborhood, knows the people that are there all the time, they're the eyes and the ears, and they can say to the rest of the police, okay, I've got a situation. This is how I think we should handle it. And I think it just makes everybody feel better. The
Yes. I
shop
agree.
owners can go to the community officer. So that was something that downtown was feeling like, hey, you want us to have this bid, but we don't have a community officer anymore, and we would rather have that than have this.
Hmm.
And a bunch of us like, there was a meeting, another meeting, like I said, this is still kind of going on. In April, there was another meeting where Councilman Gomes had set up this meeting as the neighborhoods and safeties committee. And we were invited, downtown business owners were invited to come and speak. I think we had like 3 minutes each to say what we wanted. We don't want a bid, but what do we want? And I was on vacation, but I wrote a letter and sent my friend to read it. And in that letter, I outlined all of the things that have worked in the past, such as having a dedicated community officer, such as
Yes.
having a dedicated, like, sanitation worker, meaning, like,
Hmm.
we had a guy who would walk around, if he saw something that needed work, he was able to communicate with DPI or whoever it needed to be to do that work. He cleaned up trash, just one police officer and one person to help us keep the area clean, and also to communicate with the city when things need to be fixed. Those are two things I was advocating for. I was also advocating for, and I'm a strong advocate for this, because right now we have a serious housing crisis going on in all of the New England area, but we're seeing it in our community more now than in the last 10 years. We're having a lot more people become unhoused. And
Yep.
the problem is that during the day, even if these people are at an emergency shelter, during the day, the shelters say, all right, you got to go. You can't stay here. We got to clean the shelter. You got to go. So where is an unhoused person supposed to go? Where are they supposed to hang out? They have, right now there is no building for them to hang out in. So one of the things I was advocating for and am a strong advocate for is a daytime drop-in center. And some people will say, well,
Hmm.
Jen, that'll attract people. That'll attract people to what? Get help? That'll attract people to sit in an air conditioned or heated center where there could be people from the community to help you. There could be obviously we would need some staff to work it. I
Yeah.
would like it to be run by the city because honestly, the church organizations are doing the best that they can, but they cannot be the only group. They can't be the only ones helping the unhoused. We need to have some secular agencies that are helping the unhoused population as well. Um, and a drop-in day center could be a place where they could warm up or cool down because in the summer people are dropping of heat exhaustion or the rate of violent crime goes up in the summer just due to the fact that people are hungry and they're thirsty. And when you become hungry or thirsty, if you're dealing with diabetes or a low blood sugar, you're more apt to become cranky and you're more
Hmm.
apt to pick a fight with someone where you might not. I mean, when we meet the very basic needs of people, then they can start to bring themselves up. But if we're not helping them and meeting them where they need, when what they need is basic shelter, basic food, water, and help in that way. And I think a downtown daytime drop-in center where folks can get out of the sun and maybe what they have there is a public restroom that they can use and that there's some staff that are staffing it. Maybe some folks from the different organizations like AA community can be there and are there and people know that's a safe place to go and that if they're dealing with addiction disorder that there are safe people in there that could help them. I think that could go a long way. Instead of doing this, we'll just keep pushing, we'll just push the unhoused people over here and then we'll just push them over there instead of really dealing with the problem. But back to I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry,
No,
but
no, this is all good. It's all good.
I'm just passionate about helping people and also doing it. The other thing people don't always look at is the economics of things.
Hmm.
And there is evidence that shows that if you come from what's called a housing first approach to unhoused homelessness and unhoused population and housing crises, that it has a better overall outcome. Science and social science has proven if we give people a safe place to live and then we work on whatever it is they need after that, it costs us less money. It helps them get through recovery.
Hmm.
Um, it helps them get on their feet, whether that means finding disability housing, getting on disability, or finding a job. All of those things work better if we use what's called a housing first approach to unhoused situations. Now, a first approach means that the first thing we do with anyone that is on the street that wants help, they have to, they have to want the help, but
Yeah.
we find them a safe shelter to be in, and then we work towards finding them housing. Now, there's another approach, and that's called a treatment first approach. And treatment first approach first sort of came on the scene with Ronald Reagan. And he had that whole, I'm sure anybody that lived, I mean, I was very young when Ronald Reagan was around, but I do remember his whole story about welfare moms.
Hmm.
Well, that's a myth. Welfare moms is a myth. It's some shit that he made up. Oops, sorry.
No, it's all
uh,
good.
I'm just getting a little fiery.
No, That's the way you're supposed to be on a Really Charlie podcast. So keep
Oh,
it, that's fine.
someone has a question about my name, and I would love to answer it. So I am married. I got married. I'm going to be married for 20 years. I am also an artist. And so my name before I got married, I also had a stepdad who was very sweet and wonderful, and he raised me. So my name when I sign my artwork and when I show artwork is Jenny A. Liscombe, that's my stepdad's last name, hyphen Newman, that was my dad's name who's passed away, and then Arruda is my husband's name. So my actual name that is what I file taxes under and everything else is Jennifer A. Arruda.
Mm.
Because when I was getting married 20 years ago, my husband, we got to the where we were signing for the certificate and everything, and we had not discussed changing our names, and I didn't want to. There were no men in my generation. My dad didn't have any boys, so Newman would have. It has died out with us.
Mhm.
So I had kind of wanted to keep Liscombe and Newman, but when we got to the desk and the woman said, "Are you changing your name?" My husband said, "I just thought that you would want to have the same last name." So on my marriage certificate, it says Jennifer A. April is my mom's name. So that's
Mhm.
why I have all of those names. When I sign a painting, I sign it Jalna, which is all of my names. So yeah, some people were confused when I started running and they asked why I changed my name to Arruda. I didn't change my name to Arruda. It has been Arruda. But
Mhm.
the other thing is that I never thought the real ID was going to be a big problem in a situation for women that maybe hyphenated their maiden name, and it has been. So right now I am in the process of getting my because Arruda is it's on my social security card. It's how I
Mhm.
file my taxes. It's as my business. But because as an artist, I've been signing my name that way for so long, and really more, it was like an homage to all of
Mhm.
my family. Because April, my middle name, that's my mother's name, and like I said, Liscombe is my stepdad's last name, and I added that when I graduated from college. But now my name, like I said, on my taxes, on my social security card, it's Jennifer A. Arruda. It is my married last name, but yes.
Hey,
So it's not really that I'm changing it, it's that I'm using the actual version of my name.
it's all branches in your family tree. It matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard that you know, the powers that be have made it more difficult for women who maybe wanted to keep their maiden name, and then when I've heard stories like they go to get their real ID, and now they have to, with my mother-in-law, she had to show her license, and then they were
Mhm.
like, "Well, why is your last name still Arruda since you got a divorce?" They made her go get her divorce decree. They made her get her birth certificate. They made her get this. They made her get that. And it's like, we don't need to do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's gotten a little too ridiculous with these real IDs and what's your name. My, I was born here, and so wasn't my mother-in-law, and she chose to keep the reason she didn't change back to her maiden name, which was questioned when she went to get her real ID. She was like, because my husband, again, he said, "Mom, I don't want you to have a different last name."
Mhm.
Because for my husband, it just has a lot of meaning, and it has meaning for me too, because my husband's grandfather was a firefighter in New Bedford, and
Wow.
he also, I mean, I'm gonna get a little.
Mhm.
He's passed, but
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, he was an amazing person. He served our country during World War II, and he was captured. And I admire him so much, not because of that, but because when he would barely ever talk about what happened over there, but he did talk to me about it. And he said, I believed I was doing the right thing because we were trying to free the Jewish people. And
Yes.
he strongly believed in that, and he believed so strong in family and community, and he was so kind and accepting of me. And he loved the fact that he would always go, my Jenny Arruda. And he would say that because his mother's name was Virginia and they called her Jenny. So he loved the idea that I was a Jenny Arruda. But he was an amazing, I think that he helped me fall in love with this city. So many things made me fall in love with this city. Not that I didn't like the town that I grew up in, but I just find New Bedford is more multicultural. um, I kind of like the vibe of a city,
Hmm.
I love the downtown because I've had my business there. I live in the North End, which I also love the North End. My husband's family history here, like my husband grew up in Somerset, but like I said,
Hmm.
his grandfather grew up in New Bedford, and he was served as a firefighter, and he served in World War II. And he just is an amazing person, and he just was like a ray of sunshine to everyone that met him. And he was so proud when I opened my shop. And yeah, I just think this community is a wonderful community, and it deserves the best that we can offer. And also with that, we don't want to jumbo gentrify.
Hmm.
And that is definitely something that I believe that we should be looking at. Like, when I say a path to ownership, like, I own a two-family house with my husband and my business partner and her husband. So it's an owner-occupied two-family house. These are things that will actually bring families to that next level where
Yeah.
they will have generational wealth to pass down, instead of a lot of people buying up all these gorgeous two-family houses and then using them as Airbnbs, or a lot of outside entities building these huge apartment buildings. And how they sort of get the contract is, oh, well, we'll have like 5 affordable units. But we need to be real. The basic family of 3 in New Bedford is not making the same as the basic family of 3 in Cambridge.
Yes.
We're making like anywhere from 50,000 a year to at best 70,000 a year,
Hmm.
right? At worst, way lower. And
Yes.
so when you have rents skyrocketing the way that they are, and also not enough emphasis and programs to help people buy their homes where they would have ownership, uh, that's what we need to work on. We need to find more pathways to home ownership, whether that be condos. Like in New York City, you can buy, like if you live in a big building, there are buildings where you can buy your apartment. And the beautiful thing about that is when you own your home, your apartment, your condo, it means so much to you. You take pride in
Hmm.
it. You want to keep it nice. And it builds community because those people are going to be there longer. So I'm not that I'm not saying affordable units are good. They are, but they're not the end all be all. We need to make pathways to ownership, and that helps bring people that to the next level.
I agree. I agree. Um, um, Jenny,
We
I
surpassed the time.
that's all right. But I got one question for you that you have to answer because I got to keep my streak going.
Okay.
So, who would you like to see on the Really Charlie podcast?
Oh, who would I like to see?
Yeah,
Uh, do you like? Hmm,
it doesn't matter. It's just who you want to see. That's all that matters.
See, I love podcasts. I think it's so great. It's a great way to get to know people. And I hope that you get to interview. I don't know if you have the time to interview all of the people running, but I think it would be great if you could interview all of the people running. Have you interviewed Shane yet?
He's been on the podcast a couple of times, but for this election, no. This campaign, no.
What about
Um,
James Roy?
yeah, he's interesting. I remember his face. I finally got to put his name with his face, and so that's yeah, he would be interesting. I spoke to Sean. He's also running for council at large. He said that he wanted to come on. Devin's been a guest on it, so yeah, I definitely will reach out to them and give them a time slot. And now that I know that things are so busy and things are going to get busier, um, I kind of leave my weeks available for, like, for instance, if you couldn't make it here on Tuesday, but Thursday or Friday was a better day for you, then I would just do that, and then have the
Yeah,
Really Charlie podcast on that particular day, date and time, and get it going. So I'll start working on it as soon as tomorrow, and get everybody on board and try to get them on the podcast before the primary.
I have listened to your podcast. Like I do listen to your podcast, and I don't remember their names, but there was a married couple and they had a son that had passed away from a drug situation.
That was the fentanyl facts and stories. That was Phil and
Yes.
Paula Young. Yep.
And I would like to thank them for being so honest and
Hmm.
really talking about that, and everyone that you had on that was involved in that. I found it very educational. And I think that we need to destigmatize these situations so that less people are passing away, are dying from this, and we also need to humanize it. And I thought they did a great job at really making me. I have I have members in my family that have had issues
Hmm.
with addiction issues, and it's hard. There's still a lot of shame with that, and there's still also not enough understanding about, again, how do we get people help and how do we make it so they want to get help, and just and also the fact that this fentanyl crisis it's crazy. It's like people are lacing things with fentanyl, so people that didn't even mean, their intention wasn't to go out there and to do fentanyl, but now a drug that they have come in contact was laced with that, and that's going to cause their demise. And
Hmm.
I just when you said who would I want to have you have on, I just thought that I remember listening to their story, and you had some other people on having to do with those issues, and I found they were amazing, and I want to thank them for sharing their story and making me feel like other people have dealt with that in their family.
Yeah, it's we're gonna try to get it back where it's on bi-weekly instead of weekly, only because I'm taking on some other things. And but I appreciate that, and they appreciate it. I tagged Phil's name in the comment section. If he's not listening, he'll definitely listen to it later on. So
It's Phil and Paula, right?
yeah,
Phil and
yep,
Paula.
or
Phil
Young,
and
yep.
Paula, thank you so much, because I know that that had to be really hard. In the last year, I've lost a lot of people, not necessarily due to that, but I think that also drives me to run for office at this point, is that, like, I've seen too many things that, good people pass away, or too many situations where things could have been better or could, and I just feel like it's time that I need to take that energy and put it into making the city the best city it can be.
Yeah, on the bottom line, I have a book that's written by another co-host, and that's "Unpacking Grief: Shattered to Onward" by Marvin Speller. Anyone that's dealing with grief issues, loss of a loved one, definitely that's a great book to get. And he was married to my cousin. She died in 2022, and and um, so he's gone through a lot, losing his wife, his soulmate, and so
Yeah.
that book is very good, very interesting, and definitely has he does. It's not a solve all but everyone's problems, but it gives someone a initial step, and how to deal with it. And no answer is only victims, only people that are going through the grief could provide answers for themselves, and define what's going on in their life. So
Yeah, and it's so tough. After I was on your show, my nephew was very sick and he was only 24. He passed away, and to have somebody that young in my life pass away, it just blows your mind. And there isn't a day with grief, there isn't a day that I don't think about him. And actually, when I was talking to my parents about, I said, Mom and Dad, like, people are asking me to run. They think that they want to see a voice for change. They want to see somebody different in there. And I said, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know what I should do. And they said that you got to do it for Leo,
mm,
um, because he helped me fight the bid.
yeah.
He was in the hospital, so his degree was in government conflict resolution,
Hmm.
and he got a degree from Suffolk University, and he worked for the DA's office. And when he was sick, we would try to distract him, and so talking about the bid, and he educated me so much about things like lifestyle arrests, on how, the deal, how people being unhoused is a systemic situation that costs us money, and it just goes in a circle. And he just educated me so much. And this whole time he was so sick, um, and still wanting to like help and work with, and try to make the world a better place. And so my parents told me that I needed to run for him, because we need to
Yeah.
do things that he, like, the stuff that's going on right now with ICE would have broken his heart into a million pieces.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
between you and I and your family, let's try to keep his legacy going. And the one thing we can do to keep his legacy going on a city level is just to get you in that city council chambers,
Yeah.
and and go from there. Uh, Jenny Arruda, you know what? You tell your husband he got a first round draft pick, and you know you guys keep up the good work. Celebrate an anniversary for many years. Keep up the great work, and I'll see you one day this week. I'm gonna go in your shop and talk to
That
you
would
a
be
little bit.
great. Sure.
Um,
Thank
and
you.
uh, and then on AHA night, I actually got invited to participate in a play at the Gallery X. So
Oh, really?
so I probably won't see you until after the play. But I'd like to go down there also on that day. Russell Ramus is directing a play, and he's a librarian at the main branch. And
Oh, I think I know him.
yeah,
Yes.
he's an ugly fellow, short like me. But no, I'm only joking. Handsome man. He's well.
Very handsome.
Yeah, well, and so he's gonna put that on, and I'm gonna participate in it. So, but I'll see you a couple of times in the next couple of weeks, and
Great.
feel free to come on this podcast any time you wish.
Sure, I would love to come on again. I love chatting with people.
All right. And if you post a video on Facebook, I'll steal it when you're campaigning and doing anything, and I'll make sure I put it on all my podcasts.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me have this platform to talk about my platform.
All right. Don't forget about Frequency Live at WNB1 Radio. We're actually on Sundays too, so maybe you should try to get on there and and go on a radio station with WNB1.
I would
Um,
love to do that.
yeah, and even before work, go on maybe the uh, um, Mags in the morning with B Mags and J9. They have a morning show right downtown, 8:30 to 11:30. Maybe that first hour of your workday, you can go in there, or even
That would be
call them.
great.
Yeah. So, but I'll pretty sure they're listening. But I'll also relay the message to them and let them know.
Thank
All
you.
right. You're the best. You keep up the good work. And
You too.
all right. And everyone, please like and subscribe to the Really Charlie podcast on YouTube. I really need it. Like some more subscribers and likes really goes a long way. And if you want anybody to come on the podcast, please reach out to me and I will get them on here because it's a community podcast and we try to highlight the people that need to be highlighted and give them their flowers while they are standing. All right. Take care, Jenny. You have a
Thank
great
you.
night. All right.
Bye.
I appreciate you. You're the best.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right, everyone. Here we go. Um, I will see you next Wednesday. Actually, I'll be on tomorrow. I will be on a new podcast, Chopping It Up at Honeydew, Route 18, at 10 in the morning. We'll be in Honeydew, right on Route 18, and myself and Chops Turner talking about different things. We just kind of laugh and joke and talk about music, talk about the community, um, and uh, and so that's at Honeydew. That'll be at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And the second podcast is Sometimes You Gotta Lose Yourself. That is going to change tomorrow. We are going to move it to Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, myself and Marvin Speller, and talking about love and grief. And all right, don't forget WNB1 Radio, 262 Union Street, New Bedford, Mass. And vote for Jenny Arruda. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone. God bless. Bye bye.